dot appear. Hi, it's hot. You're freezing and I'm melting. My father used to say, do you melt or do you clog? It's just wry sense of humor the old Irish boy had when he was saying, you know, are you sugar or are you salt? And it's a kind of put it in terms I think everybody can understand is if you're going to be speaking Irish, you need to be insulting. You know, it's absolute requirement. Yeah. Because then it shifts the duty to the other person to have a better comeback, right? And if you don't have a better comeback, then you're like everybody else that only pretends to be Irish one day out of the year, and that is they get offended. But I seriously, which is why the Irish are such a wonderful people, is that try and insult an Irishman. Go ahead. Good luck. You know, they're not a bunch of pansies and wimps and crybabies, you know, and things like that, because they can take it. And they're very clever. And they're resourceful. And this is just a method. It's like, you want to know how hot it is? You can go outside and feel it, or you can look at the temperature gauge. Well, for me, since Google is always wrong about the weather, right, that I am better off going outside to see what the weather is than looking at it on Google and it's like, oh, it's 77 degrees Fahrenheit with 13% chance of rain. It's like, what the hell is that? 13% chance of rain. Do I need to know that? No, I don't, because it's not going to rain anyway. They say it's less than 13, it's going to rain, right? Right. And generally speaking, they could set the temperature and humidity gauge for this area at, 100 degrees Fahrenheit, 200% humidity, and be right all summer, right? And it's just, anyway, so I'm building up to a list of what I call 10 points. And this is our strategy, my strategy, since you won't take ownership of it yet. I'm not sure I've got your support, but I don't know, Troy. We published that message yesterday to 104,000 people. And I got to tell you, I've never had so many people look at my LinkedIn profile. It's like avalanche. I'm drowning in it, Of course, nobody's going to say, may I join you? Nah, they don't have the courage to do it yet. And I think principally we need to set the gauge. And this is what I'm trying to do. And to spill the beans, maybe, I'll take 10 weeks and I'll ask or make a statement, some of which, actually, most of them are questions. And they're going to lead somewhere. They're leading somewhere. And you'll see where, when I read them to you, which is what I'm trying to get to, right? The 10 points that I think, and thank you for your encouragement and your support. These are the 10 questions that I took a lot of time contemplating and keeping them short and leading somewhere. And acting as a measure, not only for other people of themselves, but for us as well, when we come to the point where they answer question number 10 and they tell us the answers. Okay. And the questions are, so I'm going to get my LinkedIn profile site ripped to shreds. I don't mind though. Sure. Writing some very clever stuff on there. Not only that, but also other things, which I'll tell you later. Something I think I'm going to, before I get to my list, Irish, get something I'm going to publish, which maybe I'll read to you first. We'll just keep people on, the edge, waiting for the 10 points. But I haven't edited it only once, and I got halfway through the edit. So let's see what it sounds like. How my life changed sexually after Russia. I saw that eyebrow go up.
That's good.
Things are different now, or should I say, getting to be. I was raised to believe that one should save sex for the wedding night. This affected many things in my life, from my approach to women to what sex meant to me. Obviously, I did not want to wait to have sex until I was married, but provided due compensation a few times. The exploration of mine led me to consider every consort as a potential wife. It affected my sense of loyalty, even past the point of no return. I couldn't fight the disturbing notions of my longings, which consequently became guilt and fabrication. I had formed multiple relationships built upon starting with sex and continuing until the lights went out. That is to say, I came to know the person only to discover we had nothing in common except sex. And that was never enough. As sex dwindled and personalities emerged, I was no longer satisfied with either. I moved on. Sex was an eye-opener, an easy way to get into a situation that provided me with sensual satisfaction and the pleasure of a female who, programmed to receive, did her best to keep me around and avoid trashing her investment to find another. It was a measure of desperation because her clock was ticking faster than mine, if I had one at all. Women provided convenience with some measure of giving them what they wanted in the short term. They knew, I knew, the start allowed me to use them while they hoped for attachment. That soon wore off, as cumbersome, however, as it always did, and troubling items such as conversation, intelligence, genuine admiration emerged. I needed to acknowledge that sex was for pleasure and not recreation, aka recreation. Diseases, herpes, AIDS, nonspecific urethritis, sexually transmitted diseases, all I was fortunate to avoid, helped me reach some measure of coming to grips with my promiscuity. It tapered down some. The maturity of my partners, who had become more discriminating, helped some, as I was aging and maturing as well. There was also the measure of me defining in the process what I sought for. Marriages didn't work for me. Promiscuity and being a foreigner in a newly democratized society, Russia, pronounced opportunities and availability loudly. That spelled providing real estate, money, on my part, ensured my presence, and a developing sense of obligation that property has over loyalty to an aging and less appealing droll of everyday life with someone who became tiresome in the exercise of their own needs and desires. Two-stroke engines were no match for a V6 or a V8 or a V12. Models of youth saw me as an easy target. They knew I pined for the energy and awe of a willing and surprised sexual recipient. Experimentation and not desperation were discernible, and provided a temporary fountain of youth that was gone in a flash, leaving the desire I had in the first place to regenerate itself in an eternal search at the cradle of birth that I had come to worship, especially those of regenerative and inexperienced capacity levels.
Mhm.
I never wanted children. They did. They grew old and tired. I sought for a gleam in the eye as I filtered them out. It was because of Russia that I came to understand sex as a detachment from considering every bedmate as a potential wife. I must admit that my life was less and less about becoming attached to younger and more vibrant sex. I would pay double and based on sheer practicality and not hope and inexperience. I was at least knowledgeable that sex without marriage, the two was acceptable, guiltless, and mystifying. Something Western women were bereft of, the expression of woman, woman essence, womanness, was replete with the simple art of knowing how to walk, look, and talk. A sense of self and mastery thereof would not be a product of the West for another 1,000 years, if ever, and a drastic political and social evolution for beyond social media. The godless West produced me. My values were steeped in the old world and hammered in the new. I kept a lively imagination. Thought and my tasteful delights was now fledgling among mothers of Russia. I became a curious student, once again, ardently admiring what limited opportunities revealed, less the exercise of looking for it where it could not be found. Sex was based in desire and was a compromise in frequency for something cosmic, mystical, and as a conscious journey, not a turkey shoot. It was a power playing doubt and involved patience, not instant gratification that, like a drunk, was every morning looking the same as the night before, having having something, having whatever. With Raccoon Ugly, I no longer desire to chew my arm off rather than waking the sleeping creature beside me.
Mhm.
With a couple of, editorial errors. That's it.
Wow.
That's how I'm changing. I've always been, I don't know, had hot pants, I should say.
Sure. Sure.
But it just got to the point where, it was just doing the same thing over and over again, knowing that where it's leading wasn't interesting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's something really, well, wise about what the aspects you're talking about, taking something that's kind of, well, it is primal. It's this, aspect of being human that it's part of reproduction, and there's something there that drives us that is, outside of like thinking, and the word primal just keeps coming to mind. But to be able to step back from that, which is I got from your story, is like to be able to, see that and, accept that and also rejoice in that without it kind of being, this controlling or, addiction that can, have detrimental effects. But at the same time, it's something that's you can celebrate and enjoy without it overtaking you. And I think that is what takes time as a human being to grow and to be, wise around these sorts of things. And it's not just, the topic of sex, but other aspects of, why we are here and the purpose of what we want to contribute to the world, and everything else that comes and goes in our life can be kind of looked at in the same light, where there are these primal needs, but be able to step above and to observe them, or I guess not step above but step out is a better terminology, and let them be there and let them do what they need to do, but still don't be in control, or don't be controlled by them. That's what I got from your story, and there's a lot more in there as well, in terms of...
I'll clean it up and send it to you when I don't stumble near the end, right?
Okay.
And ruin everything leading up to, the final coup d'etat. But
sure.
I think I can finish. I believe I actually wrote it down. It's just predictive text, I'm typing thinking it's all there, and then I look back at it and it's like, what the hell is that? I wish these people would leave me alone, stop predicting what I want to say, and let me say what I want to say. Now to the 10 points. You ready?
Yeah.
Now we have a warm the audience up for the show, right?
Sure.
10 points. Number 1. And you can ask yourself the same question. Let me ask you these questions.
Sure.
Number 1. What do you want?
Okay.
Number 2. How do you plan to get what you want? Number 3. Is what you are doing now working towards what you want? Number 4. What makes you think you can have what you want? Number 5. Where do you want to go? Number 6. How do you plan to get there? Number 7. What drives you? Number 8. Who are you? Number 9. In 3 words, how do you identify yourself to others? And number 10. Money, quality, time. Choose 2. The third one is not under your control. And at least, for, again, first edit, I would like to know how it makes you feel being confronted. It hasn't been 10 weeks. It's been like, a minute. But how do you, what does that do to you, for you, if anything?
Well, I think, it's something that I've tried to go through before, in terms of, working out a business plan and, where we want to go and how am I going to get there. Business plan?
Oh, yeah. God.
But it's important. I think I get excited when, there's a 10-step process or 10 questions to answer and that are in line with, these topics around what do you want to do with your life. So I think it's always healthy and interesting on my, experience side to go through them and to then, see one of the things that we're talking about before is the change. So to answer those 10 questions every month and say, is it still the same, or is something new around.
You mean
or
retroactively, right? If I ask you one question, then I ask you the second question, you actually asking yourself two questions at the same time?
Well, that's there too.
Presuming they have an answer to each question, that would lead them to the next question.
Well,
tell me again what you're saying.
That's an interesting point that you're bringing up, but mine was a little different. Mine was answer the 10 questions on the 1st of August, 2021, and then ask them again in the 1st of September, and then compare what has changed and whether or not there's any differences. So that, in my interest, is an indication of how solid the plan is, or how much. I guess it's just interesting to me to have, because you can't do that unless you have 10 questions.
In other words, you want all 10 at once.
Yes, I want all 10, but I mean, it doesn't matter. I think our approach with the 10 weeks, because I think it's a great exercise of pushing this out to the group and seeing what is the responses, because with the answers to those questions, we'll have an overview of the community and be able to present the results and say, this is what we got back. And that is always interesting, and that, I think, doesn't just interest me, but should interest everybody in that group.
In some ways, I see these 10 questions as the bubonic plague, right? It's going to wipe out the majority of the population. I think statistics are 0.5, but I expect that if we end up with, let's just round it off to 100,000, right? It's easier to deal with. And we get 80, let's keep it clean, 100 responses, right? Everybody else is just joined, so that so it's sort of like, at these fast food restaurants, you see these people who are helping you, and they've got all kinds of little pins and crap on their cap,
Oh, yeah.
Best burger flipper, or another, smiling star hamburger guy, and whatever it is, and I think in some ways, the people who work there are looking for some gratification or acknowledgement, a little bit like what we talked about yesterday, where people are scratching for attention. And since I brought that up, I think more and more strongly of it, that's people are not goal oriented. They are, at least speaking from this part of the United States, they want something symbolic, right? And going into these 10 questions, none of that affected me at all. I'm not helping them to gratify themselves. It was like when I was, I guess, in this global, no, it was the India meeting, the Horasis India meeting. The media guy who lives in Dubai, he's an Indian guy, kept talking about, getting awards and recognition. And it's like, what the hell does that give you? Right? Is that why you're doing it? So you can get a gold star by your name? I mean, are you involved in your own life, or are you just, want somebody, like on LinkedIn, where when you press the like, you get, one of these, or you get one of these, or I don't even know. It's like, stop complicating my life. It's okay. I like it. I didn't say it made me, climax or anything like that. But it's more about, I think, something from my perspective that we share, right? And that I sense people are almost afraid, right? They're afraid to express themselves because, Fauci and the COVID idiots are going to come and lock you up.
Right.
Right. And it's like, can I breathe? Do you mind? And I'm sorry, now the Tokyo Olympics are all about the minorities in the United States capturing medals. It's like, somebody's come up with a plan I don't care about. Why does it have to be about somebody and something? Here in North Carolina, my family, we had, I think, 3 people die at Gettysburg, right? And that was always a badge of honor because from our perspective, it was about our right to exist as a free and independent country, nation. It wasn't about, Yankees causing trouble so that they could come and rape the South, which is what they did, destroy the only culture this country has ever had. I've got an encyclopedia of culture of the South, printed by UNC, University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, which is my alma mater, one of my alma maters. And it's like, it talks about all the things that came out of the South. And why do I need, and I made this comment to someone today, why do I need to get all ripped up about it? In the 60s, the same damn thing happened again. Somebody, agitators from the North, came down and stirred up a pot of trouble, and nobody here had a problem. Everybody had a sense of humor. When you call somebody, this is the Irish, right? Heavy sure. Population. And it's like everybody could kid and call everybody everything, and nobody got ripped up about it. You weren't rude, right? And even my grandmother, when she had black women working with her and for her. And if you were a black woman who was, working in the household, she had a special name for you. It was a negra, which was a very polite, compassionate word for what their race was at the time, Negro, Negroid, right? And now it's like you can't even say that because somebody where in the legislature is going to get pissed about it, and that's supposed to spread to Silicon Valley and, Democrats, and the country's going to be eaten with some kind of a black fungus or white fungus, whatever you choose. And it's like this whole thing, this change of approach, right, with this 10-point plan. It's like, I want to get to know you. And these are questions I would ask if I first met you, on a particular kind of professional level. This is not, face off or whatever, Facebook or whatever it is, where people, they've got to rag about something. And excuse my expression, but it seems like they're all on the rag.
Okay.
Right. That's a popular expression in the 60s, and nobody got pissed off about it.
Sure.
And now all these people from the 60s, love, peace, and all that other stuff, they're the ones who are destroying this country, I guess, because it's some lost dream, right? And nobody can laugh about it. We say if you can't laugh at yourself, then everybody else is going to laugh at you.
Right.
So I make it a point never to take myself too seriously. For what? What's the point? And I think really and truly, that's the motivation behind the 10 questions. Yeah. It's not like, we're going to help you start your business, see? Right? And then I turn into W.C. Fields or something, some other character. Yeah. Someone other than who I am. Yeah. Yeah. And the honest portrayal that I would like to do, and the friendliness and curiosity with which it's delivered. Yeah. I think it's a great approach, and we, utilization of this group, posing the questions over a week, once a week, getting that information and seeing what are the answers, and then presenting that as a holistic approach. Not that everybody will
be hidden from that information, but for us to condense it and to analyze it and to present it and report it in one post, maybe, on the week 11, say to the group,
Remember these?
Yeah, that's right. And as a group, we can answer the questions. What do you want? Who are you? And go through those questions and say, well, this is what came back. Just as an exercise.
Yeah. Don't you think they're fundamental enough to that everybody would want to do this? Not everybody, but the interesting people.
Well, I think lots of people should be interested in doing it. I think it's something that helps you to just ask these questions, so that I don't know, it gives more direction, it kind of gives motivation, it gives understanding. So a lot of people go around the world in living their lives without even asking these questions, which is a shame. It's like the opening story about realization and the drive of sex, the part that it plays. So at some point you were able to step back and ask yourself some questions. What's going on here? And what do I want out of this? And what can I do? So these questions, I think, are door openers to people's, I guess, realization, and enable us to kind of, I guess, just moving around the world in ways that are more conscious, I guess, to put it in a spiritual teacher's type of terminology, to wake up and say, I'm not just a zombie walking around here. I've got a life and a gift and talents that can be applied, and it'd be a shame not to utilize that. And that's what these 10 questions, I believe, form a basis to begin. Or even if you haven't, if you have begun, but to remind yourself, what is it? And build on top of where you've, how far you've come so far. So I think our exercise will be really interesting. I think these questions. I'm gonna listen to this recording and get them down and actually answer them myself, and pass it around.
There's no ulterior motive, no hidden motive behind asking these questions. It's not like, I'm sitting with my hands tied behind my back in a dark room with a bare light bulb hanging over my head. It's not that at all. As a matter of fact, I don't even think that I composed these questions in order to drive people to become paying customers.
Yeah.
And maybe that's my great fault, right? Maybe, I missed the boat because everybody is so driven to get rich. So what? So they can do this to everybody else? It doesn't make sense. There's something not right about it. It's